Pitkin meeting. Welcome to everyone on Zoom. I think there might be a couple coming in on Zoom, but also welcome to everyone in person as well. Thanks for coming in person and being in Zoom. Let's start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, a couple of housekeeping things. I've had a couple of comments from Zoom attendees saying that they couldn't hear me when I was at the far end of the table, so I've moved. May not want to hear me now. But as we go through the meeting tonight, if anybody has trouble on Zoom hearing any of the trustees or myself, please speak up, raise a hand or something, and we'll try to adjust microphones. I think I'm a lot closer to the Bluetooth microphone and speaker, so hopefully you'll be able to hear me now. First time someone said couldn't hear me. Let's see. I think that's the only housekeeping for now. We're going to jump right into our agenda. We've taken public comments off of the topic. Thank you. We're going to try to stick to what's on the agenda. If anybody has a public comment, by the way, feel free to send me an email by Wednesday at 5 o'clock, and then we'll read your public comment at the meeting or see if it needs to be on the agenda. So our first action for tonight is item A, meeting minutes from our February 16th meeting, regular meeting. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review those meeting or minutes.
Did they already do the pledge? You must have.
Yeah, I think so. Okay.
Any additions or corrections to the February regular meeting minutes?
The only thing I would say is on item E on the minutes. I think it's there's a section that says Corey also has heard some issue negative feedback. That's the only thing I saw.
Oh, right there. Okay. Oh, negative instead of vegetative?
Yeah.
Thanks for. Yikes.
Any other corrections, additions, subtractions?
Well, this is Tom, and I did read through the minutes in their entirety. Obviously, I didn't pick up on that. You all know I don't know them very well. But I didn't see any of the blatant mistakes that caught my eye, so I'm satisfied with them as they are. With Corey's correction.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Jared, you see it?
No, and I would make a motion to approve the minutes as with the one correction.
Second motion.
We've got a motion and a second to accept the minutes as presented, with the one exception that Corey pointed out as negative instead of vegetative. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. On to item B. Notice, Corey, I'm saying item and not number. Stuck last week. So March disbursements. Should have disbursements and financials, but I'm gonna let Stacy address the financials and what's happening.
Perfect. Hello, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to make a little note. You have not seen a budget versus actual yet for this year, and the balance sheet is not accurate. I'm working through the year-end journal entries for 2025 and inputting the budget for 2026 into QuickBooks. I had a pile of questions that just weren't clear to me. And I met with Sarah Gibb, the previous clerk, this afternoon, and she gave me very clear answers to my questions. And I just didn't get a chance to meet with her till 5. So I did not make those changes yet, but they will be done first thing tomorrow. So watch your emails, and I'll also post online under our meeting documents for tonight, the budget versus actuals and the balance sheet.
All right, thank you, Stacy. So on the disbursements, any questions, comments on disbursements? I got one that I think I know the answer to, but I wanted to bring it up. So in February, we did pass an ordinance for street commissioner pay, and that was not on the disbursements. But then as I thought about it, that was in February when we passed that ordinance. If that ordinance get posted, was noticed.
So I was just looking at that as well, and I do not believe it got posted, and we can't enact that till 30 days after it's been posted. So that is set to go in, not this week because the paper just changed their submission deadline. Instead of Tuesday at noon to get in that week's paper, they now want everything the previous Friday by noon. So I'm late to get it in this week, but we'll get it in next week. So then I guess that would be next. Well, we'll get that all filtered out, but
So should be published next Thursday.
yes, I'll definitely have it in by the deadline for next Thursday.
All right, any other questions on disbursements? Nothing for me. Okay. I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the disbursements as presented.
Got a motion, how about a second?
This is Tom, I will second that motion.
Got a motion by Corey, a second by Tom to approve the March disbursements as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, item C.
So I read through, on that question for our lease agreement. And, I read through it pretty carefully. I reread twice regarding hazardous materials that might be on site, and the last line of that section said that we are unaware of any hazardous materials. And then the other part I thought was interesting, is that we notified, I believe it was 30 days ahead of time, if there were going to be any hazardous material brought onto that site. And so those were really the only, otherwise, the whole agreement, the $250 a month and 15% pull together the lease agreement. So forth, I thought all, now, obviously, just reading and it's pretty straight English. I thought it looked good.
All right, thank you, Tom. Is Chris Stryker, is he on the line?
Not yet. Or not.
He's from Western Slope, he was supposed to be online. I tell you what I might do, if it's okay with the board, is give him a little bit of time to get on. I mean, we can move to the next item. There are, in that contract, there are three things as a board we need to decide on. And I'd like to have him on line possible. So we can decide on the. Is that okay with the board?
That suits me.
Okay. Oh. No way. Don't like the big meeting. So item number D. You'll watch with this.
Yeah, I'll let you know if he pops in.
Item number D is building inspector applicants. And we are thankful that we received input from two individuals that said they would be interested in our open building inspector position. So. Residents. So we have two resumes that we've sent out or forward on to the trustees to review. We have Levi New, who a lot of us know really well in town. We also have Bob Davis, who has sent in a nice resume as well. What I would like to do, if both applicants are agreeable to this, but I've got about 5 questions that I'd like to ask each one of you separately. So if one of you would like to leave for just a little bit, and we'll ask the questions, I'll do a reversal and then we'll ask the questions again. And at the same time, I'll open it up to the board to ask any questions as well. So we'd like to go first. Sure. All right, Levi, if you jump up to the podium and grab the mic so those on Zoom can hear us. I'm gonna open it up first with the trustees, if there's any particular questions the trustees have before I ask 5 I've come up with.
I don't think we have anything. Okay. And just, Levi for 12 years, So.
All right, I'm gonna jump right in. So Levi, what's your familiarity with the 2018 International Residential Building?
I would say functionally, I'm pretty familiar with it. I couldn't recite roughly anything to you off the top of my head, but I've been building, here for the last 13 years or so, and pretty familiar with the current building codes in the area.
Okay. And I know as you're working around the area too, you're probably doing quite a bit in town with June 21 building code, which is even a little more stringent, I think, than the 18 as well. What's your familiarity with using common sense in building things?
Intimate.
Nice.
You're not afraid to use common sense. All right, then my next question is basically the same thing, familiarity with the 2025 wildfire resiliency code. Have any familiarity with that? Or?
Yeah, I haven't built a full new build in the county since that came into effect, but I'm pretty familiar with what they're moving towards with that. And being a long time person involved, I am familiar with where they're for sure.
Okay. Well, then we're gonna go to the 2021 International Energy Code and the 23 Colorado Electric Ready and Solar Ready Code. Even though those are gonna be handled by the state, still familiarity with both of those.
Yeah, I know where they're.
Okay. Because I think as we go through tonight, basically our backs are against the wall on some of these codes with the state that we've got to implement. So we will need someone that's at least willing, if they're not familiar, to dive into it and see it.
I do know how to read.
You do not read. Well, you know how to.
Nope, nope.
You probably is good at spelling also.
All right. So the other, almost done with my questions, like really minutes. So for the past, I guess, 2 years, we've been tracking in the town building permits on a spreadsheet that I actually created back, I guess, on the zoning board. And it's really just to track for the board of trustees and the zoning board, who's applied and been granted building permits, kind of where the permit is on this. How do you feel about Excel? Or how does Rachel feel about it?
Paperwork.
So I'll give you the example. And it's pretty straightforward. It's when the application for the building permit was submitted or granted, the address, the property name. And I guess all I'm asking for is I want to get out of the Excel business. What Tom has done in the past as building inspector is he has put on the board of trustee reports who's got new building permits and one's part completed. I'd like to hand that off to our next building inspector. And I could teach him.
I can tell you my secretary is really good at this kind of thing.
Not sure she's willing.
She gets my.
Oh, okay. Okay. So then what I would ask was that be presented on a monthly basis, is emailed to the board of trustees.
So just keep track of.
What are the permits? Okay. That's all of it.
Yeah.
There's probably more columns on there than we have tracked all along, like the plumbing permits, like that's up to the state to do that. Yeah. I know WTS as well, that's up to our environmental health agency, so. Not so big, quite as concerned. Last question that I have is, can you be impartial to all building permit applicants? Whether they're friends, adversaries, family, or anybody else?
Yes, for sure.
And do you think you can treat everybody equally? Any other questions?
Absolutely.
All right. Now you get, as long as you want to sell yourself, if you want.
Well, I mean, I think you guys all know me for the most part. I've been a long time member of the community, less than some of you, but I, Ed asked me if I want to do this, and honestly, I don't, but I do see a need for it, and I think it's important for someone to step up and do it. And I think I could do a good job at it, and I think it's important to keep our permitting process here in Pitkin as simple as we can legally do. And I don't think there's any need to do anything crazy in this town as far as regulations, as far as that goes, and keep things, obviously safe, but just as simple as we can do, and kind of keep things streamlined as much as we can, and make it a little easier than the county's doing. So that's kind of the whole reason I'm trying to step up the job. Just kind of keep it where it's at now, and then just adopt what we have to adopt, and that's it. So.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Levi. Regardless of how this goes, thank you for stepping up and putting it on. Now, now the public has a question.
Oh boy.
Oh, boy.
Just here, my big thing is driving the streets of Pitkin and you see some activity that's not been properly permitted. Has a backbone to bring to that owner and the trustees' attention. Thank you.
Yeah, I think defining the job title in that area would be important. So making sure that I'm clear on what I'm supposed to be doing in that area as far as policing, building activity. Is that my job or someone's supposed to tell me what it's, so, yeah, as long as it's clear to me what I'm supposed to be doing, I will do that. Yeah.
Thank you. And then you just holler at Bob. I don't know.
I'm gonna leave this up here.
You can take it. I've got another one for Bob too. It's a friend also. Small like that. I have enjoyed when it was turned up. I'm down. I think I'm pretty good. Thanks. So. I'll keep me in fact. What would actually? Well, it's. Come on up to the podium, Bob. It's your turn.
Got my chill on. Look. Test. Everybody's.
All right, yep, they can hear you now. All right, I've got 5 questions for you. I'll go back to the board first, see if they got any questions ahead of time they want to ask. No? Okay, then we'll jump right in. Pretty straightforward questions, I believe. But give us your familiarity with the 2018 International Residential Building Code. If you're familiar with it, if you're not, you need to do some research before you know.
So I'm not really versed, front to back on it, other than I just put up a shop building, got us in the county, had to deal with county and civil. So I read through the pertinent areas I needed to get a variance, setback variance, and then also stick frame shop. Build to code.
Okay,
So quick read, yes, I can pick up on those pretty quick. Worked with them before.
all right. How about the 2025 wildfire resiliency code? What's your familiarity with that?
Yeah, I've just seen bits and pieces of it, and actually I saw it on your agenda, and I'm not all that versed with that, other than I do a fire siding and then also a setback, rock setback around the shop, so
Okay,
minor.
sure, which is part of the wildfire resiliency. Sure. All right, and then familiarity with the 2021 International Energy Code and the Colorado 2023 electric ready and solar ready code.
So I just know bits and pieces of that, mainly the solar. A friend was building a house and I helped him finish up his house. So, but really, no, I don't know. Nothing I can learn.
Sure. And for Pitkin, when it comes to electrical permits or even plumbing permits, those are actually done by the state.
Okay.
But I think it's important to have an overall understanding of what the 2021 energy code is, obviously for insulation. But then the electric ready and solar ready. The 4th question I have for you is, what's your familiarity with using Excel?
Excel,
Yeah.
I used to write major programs in Excel. I actually went up to Grand Rapids and took a week class in Excel. But I write special programs to budget and direct big multi-million. And I used Excel to build using the architectural AIA board. I modified that a little bit to get our vendors. And ones that didn't really understand it, I come understand.
Okay, so I gave you, we don't need that much expertise in Excel.
Right.
I created a couple of years ago for a zoning board and for a board of trustees, just a tracking spreadsheet for building permits of when they were granted, who the property owner was, the address, and then the inspections and stuff, then when they're completed. Just so as the board of trustees and the zoning board doesn't have an idea of what construction's going on in town. So really, my question is, do you think you have any problem updating that spreadsheet?
No, actually, I read spreadsheets, write formulas. So I still use it personally.
I can't get away from
Right. It's a great tool.
it. Okay, then the last question I have is, do you feel that you can be impartial to all building permit applicants, whether they're friends, adversaries, possibly family members, and then treating everyone equally in the town of Pitkin when it comes to building permits?
Yes, I wouldn't have a problem being equal with everybody. I think few people that know me, I'm running a nonprofit club right now, and I think I'm very fair with anybody and everybody that I can run into.
Okay. One last thing is, unless the board members have any other questions. So we'll give you as much time as you'd like to sell yourself for our building inspector. Oh, public. Okay, hang on a second. The public has a question for you.
Yes, Gary. Being on the zoning board and the trustees here, do you feel like presence in Pitkin will be enough that you notice construction going on that has not been permitted? And be able to get a hold of the owner and the zoning board of trustees to get that brought back into proper order?
I'm not in Pitkin, I'm down in Pearl. And yes, I would think in doing the job, I'd get through the town and see what's going on. And also, it would rely on some of you guys. You see something, give me a call. And I'll say, hey, I'll go check this out. So it's works together, I think.
Good. So I'll go back to my question then. Is take as much time as you'd like to sell yourself on why you should be Pitkin's next building inspector.
Well, I think I'm qualified in the construction industry. Been doing it all. It's been a great little thing for me. I retired about 3 years ago off a major project, and I've just been helping friends do projects, and I just need something to do. Truthfully, that's why I applied. Get me out of the house. And get me involved. Right now, I'm involved in a nonprofit, and I like the heck. It keeps me busy, keeps me thinking. I build Excel spreadsheets for them. So I just need something to focus in on. In construction, I felt this was right up my alley. And interfacing with people. I think you know, you got to interface with people pretty well. So it get me out and going.
All right. Very good. So regardless of how this goes tonight, pick you, pick the guy. First, I want to make sure that I thank you for putting your name in the hat.
Yeah.
Because we certainly appreciate anybody who will raise their hand for the town of Pitkin. So thank you for that.
I enjoy the whole county. The county, great little place. Grew up here, went away for a while. Back since 2010.
Good. Glad to have you. All right. So I'll bring it back to the board. I'm gonna ask the board, do we want both applicants to lead and discuss, or what direction do you want to take as a board? That's kind of a hard one. Yeah, I know. We could, but I don't know if we don't have any discussion prior. Yes, and both of them. Okay. Go sit with Levi.
Levi and I'll go.
Yeah. Stay warm, yeah.
Yeah, right, the whole way.
It's warm down.
Yeah.
My how things change.
All right. I think we both outside. What kind of conversation? I'll go first. I think we've got two extremely qualified applicants. I'm tickled that we have two applicants. The only drawback to that is when you have two well qualified applicants, it makes the decision harder. I've known Bob for probably a year. I've known Levi since we've been coming up here. And so I've known him for several years. My gut feeling is either one of them would be very equal to everyone. So I have no concern with who we want. I can't even give you an indication of which way I go. But I feel either one of them is very, very good. I'll open up there. Looks like she was.
Yeah, I was really pleased that we had two applicants. Their resumes are both very good. I have not personally known Mr. Davison, except by reputation. I think he has a wonderful reputation in this county, as far as I know. And, but I think they're both very well qualified, but I just feel like knowing Levi, I've never, knowing him very well in this community, I've never known a negative thing. He'd be here, we could make it very appropriate for staying on top of the job. But I don't have anything negative to say about either candidate, but I just think it's better for the town to have someone local. Time wise, just being able to be here. That's me.
So I think those are all very fair comments.
I don't really have anything to add, just glad we have two people. I'm sure Tom is here, he's probably ready to pass the torch.
Give me just a minute for an administrative task. What to have this one. While I'm doing this, is there any other comments from the public? Or on Zoom?
Jess Garrettson, Bob Davis has been a very good leader with the Gunnison Snow Trackers Club. Very organized, very spot on. Levi is also very spot on and here locally. And the question I propose to both of them is, was answered properly by both parties. Very much probably partial to Levi being right here and under thumbnail right whenever needed. In a heartbeat, he can be here. And he has a great receptionist to back him up and take care of the paperwork. So that's it.
Okay, thank you, Justin. So I did have, oh, go ahead. Hold on.
Yeah, there's one thing that stood out to me, partly because of some time we've been in the last couple of days. And that's, I started reading the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code, which happens to be the next item on the agenda.
It's coming up.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, and I don't know what, I had some questions that I was gonna ask during that. Maybe this will answer one of them is
enforcement of that. And not all, but quite a bit of that resiliency code deals with building. And Levi just kind of in passing mentioned it, but his experience with the Pitkin Fire Department, I think is a game changer. Enforcement of this code that you're about to adopt, it is, you know, I don't know how you're gonna do it. But I think having someone who's experience in the fire department here, it makes a big difference. I think you guys just consider that, you know. And I wouldn't speak against either of the candidates, but I think that experience that Levi has might turn out to be absolutely crucial in this thing.
All right, thank you, Ramon. I'm not gonna go into it on this topic, but when we get down to the wildfire resilience code, I will explain specifically what the wildfire resilience code applies to. Because I know there is some misconceptions out there, and it does fall in under the building inspector on the rules, or additions. Additions on how it's done, but I'll address that more in particular, but I do, thank you for your comments, Ramon. There's no one on Zoom?
Nope.
Okay. So there is one more thing I was gonna bring up. And that is, I've never been a fan of the building inspector inspecting their own work. Because I think it's a conflict of interest. So I did talk to Levi about that ahead of time. And Levi said that he was a bit concerned about that as well. So I did talk to Phil Deutsch. I talked to Phil quite a while ago, asking if he would be the building inspector. And Phil said he does not want to be the full-blown, full-time building inspector. But I did ask Phil, would you be willing to inspect the construction of Levi house? And Phil said, yes, I would be willing to. And so that kind of took my fears away of having the builder inspect their own work. So I think Phil and Levi, obviously they work well together. Levi worked with Phil for a long time. They still work well together. So I think between the two of them, I think both of them are very fair people. I don't think that would be any issue. For Levi or. So I just want to throw that up. So one last time for the board. So I've given each of the board members a blank piece of paper. So if you would like to make your vote for either Bob Davison or Levi Noon or a building inspector, and then fold your piece of paper, and we're gonna take them down to can't write, talk at the same time. We'll pass them down to Stacy and let Stacy tally.
Mayor, may I interrupt?
You may.
So there's a provision in the open meetings law that prohibits voting by secret ballot. I'm not sure what you're planning to do next, but at some point the vote does need to be open.
Okay. So by each trustee of which way they vote?
Correct.
Okay. So then I guess rather than do the piece of paper, then we'll just go down the road. I'll start with Corey. We'll just come down and do a roll call vote. Okay, Levi Nude.
This is Jara, Levi Noon.
Michael. Okay, Tom said his piece of paper is blank. And this is Ed, and mine was for Levi New as well. So. I'm looking to see if Rachel's smiling or frowning. All right, so if someone would go out and holler at those two. Please. I probably could haul it out and nothing to hear. No one on Zoom would be able to hear.
No, he hasn't popped in yet.
All right, so we've got both Bob and Levi back in the room. So I will tell you that the board has made their decision for our next building inspector. I'd like to congratulate Levi New as our next building inspector. And I'd certainly like to thank Bob Davidson for throwing your name in the hat. Certainly.
Mayor, could we also have a formal vote? Sorry to interrupt again, but could we also have a formal motion and vote by the board appointing Mr. New?
Thank you, Bob. Yes, yes, ma'am. Thank you for keeping me on track.
You bet.
So, I'd entertain a motion to accept Levi New as the next building inspector. Derek?
This is Sierra and I'm so moved.
So we have a motion to accept Levi New as our next building inspector. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Lori seconds that motion. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. And Same.
I think I can say aye.
So we have a vote of 4-0 to appoint Levi New as our building inspector. So Levi, I'm guessing because it's March 16th, how about an April 1st? No, April 2nd start date. I don't do anything on April 1st.
No, good, fair.
Especially start as a building inspector.
Woo.
And I do have, we've had in the last several days, we've had a couple of permits come in. And I'll move forward in those two. I don't, have you guys? It's more, there's a couple more that just came in and knowing this is gonna take place. Okay,
So could I say just a little bit about building inspector?
absolutely, you can.
All right. So I've been building inspector for a while. And for those of you who follow the disbursements, for last year, my income off of being a building inspector was $5,000 in change. So the part of my speech that is important here is, so you think, well, okay, here's the problem with building inspector. You make an awful lot of trips. You will make a trip 5 times to see somebody who wants to know. They want to know, how do I do this right? And you make 5 trips out there and you finally convince them to throw that plan away and come up with something else. And you spend hours in electronic communication and on the phone and in emails. You don't get paid anything for that. You get paid a percentage of whatever the building inspection permit fee is. So, basically I made $100 a week. And, I will tell you, it's not a winning game financially. And, while I was the inspector, it would have been inappropriate for me to suggest that the world is changing, everything is going upscale and becoming more expensive and much more information based and so forth and so on. And I think it's time that this board or the zoning board or collectively got together and took a look at what our building fees actually are.
Building permit fees.
Building permit fees across the board. I think they need to go up at least a little bit. In order to try and keep up equitably with the expenditure of time that this is going to take. And on the one hand, I was was glad that Levi got this on the other hand on it. I'm not so sure I would wish this on anyone. So, that's kind of my thing. I think, we need to take another look at our building permit fees. Because, well, we just talked about the Resiliency Act and driving through town and seeing this and seeing that. And there's more of that that happens now. And I'm still playing catch up in a couple of places. People who are not. Anyway, and I'll probably get to pass those off or not. But anyway, I just wanted to say that everything keeps escalating. There's more and more regulations coming down the pipe. Having this job just keeps getting bigger, and the amount of time you will spend not actually inspecting, but in conference and in consultation and reviewing with people, and then they throw it all away and they say, never mind, I ain't doing it, and your time's wasted. And for there to be no compensation for that, it's really was probably the thing that got to me.
Okay. I think it was a very fair comment. One thing I would ask Levi, it's going forward when you start. And I don't care if it's even notepad with it, but if you would track your time, so we have a better idea. And I'm not saying to the men, but so the board would have a better idea of how much time is involved. So that when we come back, we try to redo budgets or we increase fees, which you have that information. If you would do that, I think it helps the bids. All right, any questions for the board from Levi?
Not currently, I'm sure we can agree details.
Okay. Very good. Welcome aboard. Not that bad of a person to work for. And neither is his board. So, no fighting. Any other thoughts or comments from the board? All right. That takes us to
I think Chris is on. Do you want to jump back to that?
Chris Stryker. Are you online?
Oh, I think that's Chris Geigley that you're seeing.
Oh, Chris Geiger.
This one.
It threw me too. I saw
Oh,
Chris and
okay.
Alex.
Then I'm gonna keep bouncing that one down. We will, even if Chris doesn't get online, I want to cover the 3 outstanding issues with that western slope. So we could possibly go back and we could decide on those 3 questions and we could vote on our and give it back against both of you. 7 field. All right, so let's move on to item E. And item E is a liquor license renewal for the Stumbling Moose Lodge. And I believe we have the application that Mr. Schellenberg sent in. And that passed on to all the board members as well. So let's start, I guess, with the board. Do we have any questions or comments regarding this application? I know Jake's not here, but his manager will be stumbling his slouches with to answer any questions you might have. Questions from the board?
Not really.
Okay,
It's pretty straightforward.
all right. As far as the application, I had no questions on it. I'll even open it up to public comments.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sure.
I don't have a question for Galen, but I personally have not had any complaints. But so I wondered if the board members have had complaints about the Stumbling Moose liquor license. I've not had any negative feedback.
Okay.
My question isn't for the general public necessarily, but just wondering if
Has the board received any complaints?
has the board.
Okay. So I can say that I received no verbal complaints regarding Stumbling Moose Lodge. nor has the town received. Since this time last year, has the town received any written complaints? None have come to myself.
Nope.
Stacy's
None to
shaking
me.
her head, she's not received any to pass on, so. So my answer is no.
Nope.
All right, I'll open it up to public comments. Zoom, in person. All right, we'll bring it back up to the board. I'll entertain a motion if there's no more discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve the renewal for the Assembly News Lodge and their liquor license.
So we have a motion, how about a
This
second?
is Jared, and I'll second
Get out my words and we're going. So we have a motion and a second to accept the Assembly News Lodge liquor license renewal. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
it. Aye.
Aye, that's what carries, 4-0. All right. So Stacy, you've got the check,
Yes.
okay, and you forward that to the state?
Mhm.
Nope. Send that off this week.
Yeah, we'll get that out in the mail tomorrow.
Perfect. All right. So I'm gonna bounce one more item and then we're gonna go back to Western Slope. We're gonna handle that out for you. So item F is the request. We're listening to the request of combining lots 1 of block 37 and lots 2, 3, and 4 of block 37. If you talk.
You want me to go up there?
I think it's very much.
Okay, so this is Tom Gibb. And I own lot 1 of block 37. I also own blocks 2, 3, and 4. And those of you that are familiar with that side of town, it's the hillside. If you have looked at town of Pitkin map, you will have noticed that from the time the city line leaves 3rd Street down there and gets up behind the lots narrow down from 125 feet to basically 60 feet. And so that is an undersized lot. That's right at 6,000 square feet. And you can't do anything with it in Pitkin, and you can't do anything with it in the county. The reason I bought that lot is because everybody that knows anything about Pitkin knows we are all jammed up on that side of town with wells and septic systems. So purchasing this lot, which I was grateful to do, I got from Gene and Barbara Mason. Their son was a county commissioner, something for a while. Sometime back, and what I need is, hopefully I will never have to replace the septic system. I spoke with Sarah Bergstrom and had her out to look at this hillside. Those of you who are familiar with that know it is quite the hillside, and she did not bat an eye. She said, when you get ready to put in a new septic system and you want a soil treatment area up there on that hill, it's no big deal. In fact, we could run 2 or 3 soil treatment areas up on that hill. And hopefully I will never have to do that, but should a future day come when a future owner needs that ability, that's the reason for the purchase of this property, and that's why I would like it joined, because if it's not joined, it just sits there too small to do anything with, and I'm still paying taxes on it. I'll still pay taxes. Change of shape in the lots. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom. So I will say that this came up to the zoning board of adjustments last week, the last meeting. And a unanimous vote of the zoning board of adjustments was to approve the combining of lot 1 with 2, 3, and 4. And the way the zoning board, I'll paraphrase here, the way the zoning board looked at it was lots 2, 3, and 4 is a conforming property. And the lot 1 of block 37 is a non-conforming property because it's one lot. And they can, the conforming property, you need a minimum of 3 lots. So combining lot 1 with 2, 3, and 4 takes a non-conforming property and adds it to a conforming property. So the board was unanimous when recommending that the board of trustees combine these two. Any other questions from the board?
No, point blank, I don't see any issue with it. I think it's a good idea.
I will open it up to public comment.
Yes, Garrett, the zoning board, Tom did a fantastic job of presenting his case. And yes, now we have a non-conforming piece of property that's conforming. And it can be utilized if need be. Wonderful, get her done.
All right, any other public comments?
Nothing online.
Nothing online? Okay. So this is it. I will make a motion that we,
Mr. Mayor, can I interrupt for a second? Apologies, but Mr. Gibb needs to recuse himself from this vote. I assume that's going to happen.
correct.
Okay.
Since he's property owner.
Okay, so I'd like him to make a record of that so that it's clear that he's not voting on this.
Just make it clear for the board. That's your property and you're not gonna hold it.
This is Tom Gibb, and for the record, I own lots 1, lots 2, 3, and 4, and I will not be voting on the combination of these lots.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you to Hillary and thank you to Tom. So I will make a motion that we approve the request to combine lots 1 of block 37 with lots 2, 3, 4 of block 37. That's the motion.
I'll second the motion.
So we got a motion and a second to approve lots, combine lots 1 with 2, 3, and 4 of block 37. There'll be 3 of us. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right. That's about. And you need a letter to take to the county assessment.
Yes, that's correct, the county, well, this has to be done at the local level now, it needs to be that way, but so I will need a letter.
So Stacy, would you draft a letter to the county assessor
Absolutely.
and tell, give the court or the record of it? Perhaps. Provide that to Tom, please. Okay, let's go back to the Western Slope Agreement. And in that agreement. Hold on a second. C. Oh, items. Not number C. Struggled with that last week. No. Let me get there. I don't have it open. I had it open. Where it's at. Give me just a second. I want it open. Just gotta find it. Yeah, close it. It's always close. Slide it. One. All right, so in the agreement from Western Slope. I believe at the last meeting, the board had agreed upon $250 a month plus 15% of the rent that Western Slope might receive for anything put on a tower there. That has been added into the contract. The other outstanding, or one of the other outstanding items is on section 2, which Probably. In section 2, which is under the option. The option period shall commence on the effective date and shall continue for 12 months thereafter. We need to decide when the option period starts. I know in our discussion last month, we talked about it could start from when they took over the tower, or we discussed that it could start thereafter, or it could start as soon as this agreement is made. I hate to speak for Chris.
It's
I
not
don't
on
see him
yet.
still, but if I remember properly, I recall him saying that he felt like they would know by October, November if they were gonna have anything on it. So maybe, this is just my opinion and my thought, maybe we start that at least at January 1st, that option, I'm sorry, at January 1st, and 12 months from then. There's the option period starts at that point. That's okay.
So this option starts 2 months ago.
Yeah, and the option is that they get 12 months at no cost, so the tenant could do,
That's not open.
searching for any possible tenants.
Thank you.
What are some other thoughts on January 1st? Seem reasonable, or March 1st, February 1st, today? Back when they took over the lease? They took over.
I'd say if they're okay with January 1st. That's all right.
I like that date.
Okay. So we'll propose to them that start is January 1st. If they do not agree to that, then we'll have to come back and readjust it. And then the second item was on section 6B. And the section on 6B is the rent percentage payment. If we were to exempt that for government users, because I remember Chris saying that it's not feasible for government users for them to pay the rent percentage because they're usually getting a lower fee in it. So what are our thoughts on exempting government users from the rent percentage?
This is Tom, and my initial expectation after listening to various discussion here is that government use lends itself more toward public welfare than other use. And I think we should be able to promote that.
I would agree, particularly, I've not heard anymore, but if the emergency services were to want to add antennas to the radios to the tower, I'd be all over that. I would agree with what Tom said. Any other thoughts? The exempt government users?
I think it's fair compromise there. I think kind of along the lines of what Tom said, as long as it's kind of at the public law or public interest. I don't know many cases that would be. My assumption is it would be something like emergency services, for example, like that.
I would agree. Okay, so we'll leave it as exempt. Governmental, public, and quasi-governmental entity subtenants shall not be included in the calculation of percentage. And then the last section, in section 15. Y'all run and hide. Okay, I'm being facetious. And section 15 is who do we want to fill in as the landlord, to fill in as the town contact person? Do we? I'm just gonna stop.
I'd suggest the mayor.
Me too, you don't have anything else. to
That's why I stopped and make a comment.
Well, yeah, that notice of request and demands thing is kind of. Yeah, nobody likes those words. On the other hand, I'm gonna run with what Jared says, but you've been kind of the point to this. And, I really don't think we're going to have anything egregious here. And if we do, we'll all be involved anyways.
Okay. Okay.
Use the word in my ear.
Yeah. So I would, yeah, I would say that we put on their attention mayor, town of Pitkin mayor, and then put for an email address. I'm just gonna put on my notes, lucky me. You know, I'll know what that means. Okay, so with those three changes, I think we ought to take a vote. The Board of Trustees actually motion. There is one last thing, and it's came from our town attorney. She did ask that we confirm the property description in exhibit A's. I did confirm those property descriptions. And I don't have it all right in front of me. It is probably new. I don't know if I can lay my hands on it real quick. The address, when you first look at it, looks, oh, here it is. Is property located at 100 2nd Street, Gunnison County. When you look at that address, that looks kind of funky, but the legal description. I've got to think about, I thought I did have it pulled up, but maybe I don't. I would contest that. It's, but in the contract itself or down in the addendum, it's actually, that's what, if I can find the map, it makes more sense. I found the map, and now the board. See it up there, about. But I'm comfortable that at the legal address. Give me just a second, I get. Well, that's gonna be hard to see. But the 102nd Street on the lease agreement itself is 395 Solzie's Road, which is the property location of that place.
101st Street, so a lot closer than 102nd.
Yeah, but so this is the legal description. There's the building back there. In the town. So it's across the highway at the top of the hill. So the memorandum of lease and the lease for legal description is 395 souls in the room. But I think that's satisfied what Hillary was asking. No, that little steep get up there. It does wind you when you walk up there. There you go. All right, so I guess I would entertain then a motion to accept the outstanding issues be stated here for the date to start of January 1st, 2026. Government or exempt users, and then the mayor will be the contact. I just made that motion. Did you get all that, Stacey?
I did.
Thank you, that was a very good motion. I'll second that motion.
All right, so we've got a motion, we've got a second. All in favor, say aye.
All right,
I,
Okay, we'll send those three items back to Western Slope. Hopefully they'll have an issue with it. If they don't, then with that, we can sign the contract. Yeah. All right. So now we go down to item G, reviewing of the zoning code as revised. And in this item, well, we would like to go ahead and set another public hearing before the adoption. And the reason being is we did have a public hearing for the zoning code. We've made several changes going back and forth. So we thought it might be appropriate again to hold a second public hearing for adoption of that zoning code. So before we do that, let's talk about the changes that are currently from our last meeting. So we did receive a so-called a blue line version now with some changes on it. Primarily two larger changes, I guess I'll say, in the code, zoning code. The first one was after our last meeting, there a lot of heartburn about having a recreational vehicle park in the zoning code. That has been struck, so the definition has been removed. On page 3 of the definitions. Also, since that's just flat out been taken out. The RV park has been taken completely out of it. So then the second part of it was the zoning districts. We originally, but in this last update, we had 3 different districts: a residential district, a business district, and then a planned development district as well. There was a lot of feedback last month, and a lot of heartburn with the planned development, saying that it has mixed uses. And after consultation from our town attorney, once you take the mixed uses out of the planned development, it only becomes a planned development in the residential district. So therefore, the recommendation from our legal counsel is that we simply go back to 2 zoning districts, a residential district and a business district. If there are any variances that need to be in either district for a development, those variances would go to the zoning board like they currently do, for the zoning board to hear it, unless of course it involved variances with town property, or if it involves variances with town property or any street issues, then those would come to the board of trustees. Just like it currently would today. So the planned development was removed out of the zoning districts, so back to 2 residential districts and a business district. And then under business district uses, recreational vehicle park was removed. And just to clarify, in business district, the temporary employee housing incident to and necessary for the operation of primary use of property, which may include recreational vehicles and multiple dwelling units. So those are permitted accessory uses like they have been for use. And those are the changes of the zoning code to me. So to the board, do we have any discussion on those three items? I know 2 items, RV park or land development. If I get to.
Yes, this is Tom, and I don't have anything to add or subtract either one of those.
He's gonna say, I feel like both these subjects gotta be been beat to death, so.
Okay. I'll open it up briefly to public comments, and we will do a public hearing in the near future for the zoning code. Before we adopt. So I'll open up public comments. Go ahead, Jesse.
Jess Garrison, zoning board chairman. Last Monday night, a week ago tonight, this was brought to us with those 3 major changes. And we unanimously agreed with it and sent it to you with a recommendation to approve it as printed.
All right, thank you.
And we have an online public comment.
All right, we have an online public comment.
Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, this is Pete Olson. Thank you for the opportunity to make a comment. I've got 4 points I'd like to address briefly. The first, section 2 of the zoning, section 5, excuse me, references a zoning map. I believe it's imperative that the final publication include the zoning map before you have a public hearing and consider it for adoption, because it's referenced as part of the zoning code, but it's not included. Secondly, just a small concern, section 10 talking about accessory uses. There are no limits on the number, size, or coverage of accessory uses on a lot, which would imply to me that an accessory use could be larger than the principal structure, in other words, a residence, or there could be 5 or 6 accessory buildings placed on a residential lot, for example. So I think that's just something that should be considered. Next comment is on section 15. And there were comments made at the public hearing a month ago about the concern of the business signs being allowed to be 100 square feet and 2 per business property. I think that's something that ought to be considered as it relates to the character of the Pitkin. Now, my final comment is on section 4, the zoning districts and the removal of the planned development district. I would encourage the town to not give up on the concept of a planned unit development, particularly because last summer there was a subcommittee that looked at a proposal for Mr. Schellenberg, and prior discussion has raised a lot more questions than answers of how that property might be developed. And I think given the wetland concerns, access concerns, and some other site development limitations, a planned unit development concept might be a solution to allow that development to go forward with a lot less concern than a number of variances and street vacations, et cetera. The Colorado Planned Unit Development Act of 1972 contemplates that a planned unit could have mixed use, but it's not mandated or required. In fact, it's set forth that a planned unit development ordinance or resolution would identify the uses permitted in the planned unit development. So it's not necessary for their B mix uses, it's an option. And I think that the statute further provides that Department of Local Affairs is to provide sample ordinances for consideration. So I think it's a tool that could provide a lot of benefit to the town. I don't have any objection to being excluded at this point in time, but I think it should be given more consideration and perhaps amended into the zoning code at a later date. So that's just my opinion, and I appreciate you listening to me. And thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Pete.
Ramon,
I'll be pretty brief on this. There's a couple of additions that I've noticed that I really think are inadequate in their wording, and I think some, before your next meeting, when we'll be considering adoption of this, that these two items should be considered and hopefully improved upon. The first one is in section 10, permitted accessory uses that Pete mentioned. The B2 is an addition to the zoning code that should states temporary employee housing incident to and necessary for the operation of primary use on property. I think you really need a very clear definition of temporary housing. Just what qualifies and what conditions there might need to be, such as both septic and water. Those, if you're gonna have temporary housing, it needs to be legal housing. And this really says nothing about it. So I think that this is a brand addition to the zoning code. I think it simply needs more consideration and work. The second item is section 22 on page 18. This is a new section called subdivision. Again, you need a definition to start with of what is a subdivision. I mean, the town of Pitkin, when it was formed, was 160 acres that the government subdivided into, I don't know how many 100 lots that we have. But this just says a division of land. What does that really mean? I'll give you one example that I think would be unintended, but probably fit the lack of definition here. On State Street, I don't know, don't have a current map, so I don't know the block or block numbers, but it's the block on State Street between Second and Third. There's 16 undeveloped blocks. I think most people are familiar with that area. Nothing has been built on it. With the lack of any subdivision, what this says, if the owner of those 16 lots wanted to sell 4 of them for someone to build a home on, he'd have to go through and get or apply for a subdivision, wouldn't he? Or we need. I mean, that's never been the case before, that just saying subdivision without what it is, you need more than that. And so I really think, because this is a new section it needs some more work before we adopt it next month. That's, I'll leave it at that.
All right, thank you, Ramon.
Oh, I do have one other very short thing. I was kind of curious about an item that was on the agenda and you've already dealt with, and that was Tom's request to add a lot to pre-authorization blocks. There's nothing in this about doing that. So I'm not quite sure under what guidance the board, even listening to you, did. I don't see any objection to doing that, but if you're going to, require a motion or application or whatever, we should consider that along with subdivision. There's a term that the county uses, and it's been a while since I've done this, but I think it's to combine lots. And now the term, even that I thought of, is escaping me. But if you look at the county land use code, they have a term for both, definition essentially for both subdivision and or lot combinations. And so I would put those together and put it in either the definitions or in the section on subdivision, so that it's clear what needs to be done with what type of lots or whatever. That's all.
Right, thank you.
Oh, I just remembered, I think the term is lot clustering. They put lots together. So if you look in the land use resolution, you'll see that listed. And so if it's going to be done, you should have a reason for it and maybe some process on how we do this.
Okay, thank you. Susan?
Wait, can you hear me? Okay, so I was just looking at stuff because I live down there. And it is described as a large parcel of land divided into smaller separate lots, residential or commercial development, often featuring uniform homes, shared infrastructure, roads/utilities, and strict homeowner association covenants, purposely designed for organized community growth. Subdivisions offer like parks and security that often come with higher density HOA fees and restricted regulated.
For
For a subdivision.
all. All right, so bring it back up to discussion for the board, some of these comments. I'm gonna back up. I'm gonna start with the plan development. Is the whole idea of the plan development started where you can have a development that would be planned. And when you have a plan development, it would have to go through not only planning, but then would go through an ordinance. The heartburn that everybody, or a number of people seem to have last month with the plan development as a zoning district was that term mixed uses. Well, mixed uses would mean a plan development and business district. So once you take mixed uses out of that plan development, now it's only a plan development for a residential district. It leaves the business district high and dry of ever being able to do plan development. So therefore, the recommendation from our legal counsel was plan development comes out of the code altogether, and we go back to the two districts like we've had for years. So that's why the plan development was taken out. Another comment that was made under permitted accessory uses. And under section B, a whole nother line was added under section 2 of the business district. For permitted accessory use. We could actually take 2 completely out. And there's no clarification of a temporary employee housing instituted necessary for the operation of primary use on the property. It actually falls under item number 1 of the old code that's been in place since 2012 that I can see in 2022 as well. Or we can leave item 2 the way it's being presented from our legal platform. But so I'm not sure where we want to go with that. If you want to leave it there, if you want to take it out, you want to make changes to it. What else? What else from any public comments that you'd like to either change in the code, leave in the code, or take it the way it is? I do. Okay. Yeah, let me finish up. Any other comments, thoughts from the board?
No, I don't think it hurts, kind of like Ramon pointed out, maybe just have a definition of what we're defining as a subdivision.
That's
That is kind of an oddity there that we have subdivision and all this information about it, but it's not defined with definitions.
Joey, could we add a definition of subdivision?
You could, but I would argue it's already defined in section 22. It's any vacation or division of land within the town. So I don't certainly could work on a subdivision definition, but it's really meant to be quite broad.
What are your thoughts? Work on it? We want
I guess my concern is that, I mean, the exact example that Mo brought up happens, so somebody might buy 8 or 10 lots. And at some point they want to sell 4. They have
Those
to
are
go-
already divided into lots. So those are already separately defeasible portions of land.
Essentially, they want to divide a lot into a smaller subsection.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I'm saying it would essentially apply only if they were wanting to divide a lot into a smaller section.
Correct. Or combine several lots into a larger parcel.
We can't have a non-conforming. You can't divide anything, subdivide anything into non-conforming, that's
Then
already.
No, so this is Tom. So, we have seen increasing issues with the ability of septic systems in the defined area of 9,000-foot lot. And if you could pick up half a lot off the neighbor without impinging upon his, then, that might be hugely advantageous. And it would make neither you or your neighbor non-conforming if there was that ability to do so. So, don't want to just make a blanket statement. You can't split lots,
I mean, if I may,
non-conforming.
if I may, if one person owns 4 consecutive lots in a row and wished to make them 3 larger lots by vacating the existing lot lines and replatting it as 3 lots, that would essentially be subdividing. It would be first merging and then subdividing.
I just always thought that you cannot make a conforming piece of property non-conforming. That's already covered in the code.
That's correct. But the example I just gave wouldn't do that, and that would be a form of subdivision.
To that point, I guess, in our code, as far as building, you have to have a minimum of 9,325 feet or 7.
9,000 square feet, which we
9,000.
used to call 3 lots.
Okay.
One of the things I'd like to add, these properties between Second and Third Street on State Street are owned by the same party. They also own another property across Quartz Lane from those lots. And to my knowledge, those lots have never been combined. They were bought 3 or 4 lots at a time from different people. So to me, there is 0 problems with that property as a subdivision. They could sell any one of those 3 or 4 lots if they have a buyer that wants to buy them and build. And if that buyer does his homework and finds out there's spacing for the OWTS, Reg 43 with his well, there is no problem here. We take care of it just as it's printed today in our zoning code. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Well, so this is Tom again, and I want to get back on this plan development business. And I think that Pete was correct. We do have property within the city limits of Pitkin that should all the hoops manage to be jumped through and all the plans be developed and all the checklists be covered. The plan unit development would be the best use of property.
Won't that happen before it gets built for the
I'm just saying. I agree with Pete that maybe we ought to take another look at this. But I don't know when or how, because I'll be sitting out there here next time.
It appeared to me that the last meeting, there was such heartburn about having mixed uses in the plan development. We either have a plan development with mixed uses in it, or we have no plan development involved.
No,
You can't discriminate against residential district only and not businesses.
may I make a comment?
Sure, Pete.
Well, it's possible to have a planned unit development for residential use. You could have a planned unit development in the business district that would allow mixed uses. You don't just have one planned unit development district. You may have several. That's why I encourage the town to, you don't need to do it right now, but particularly with Mr. Schellenberg's proposed development, a residential planned unit development provides a lot of flexibility for the developer and for the town of Pitkin to make it possible for that property to be developed. As I mentioned, Department of Local Affairs is supposed to have some sample planned unit development regulations. I think it would be beneficial for the town to investigate those further. It's not necessary for there to only be one planned unit development district. It's possible to have more than one, each with different defined permitted uses. So again, it's a little, planned unit development zoning is a little bit sophisticated, but there's a lot of sophisticated people in Pitkin that I think you could pull it off if you just research a little further. So that's just my opinion again, but I think it's something that bears further evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Hillary, do you have anything that you'd like to weigh in on that topic?
Mayor, I don't. I mean, we could certainly reinstate the plan development. I think there is some confusion about what it does conceptually. It is essentially an enabling provision, which would allow something to be zoned PD in the future. It doesn't actually zone anything yet. But I do fall back on the idea that a plan development is meant to bring something that straight zoning does not. So if you're not willing to have mixed uses, I just really don't see a utility for it. For a consistently residential development, there wouldn't be a need to have a PD. You could simply do variances to alter density and setbacks and replat roads. And so I guess I'm not sure the goal. If the goal is to allow this development that has been proposed, there's probably any number of ways that can be done. I don't think the waffling back and forth with putting PD in and taking PD out is particularly helpful. I think the town needs to decide what it wants to do, and I can draft accordingly.
All right, thank you. Thoughts?
I think if there's a mechanism for Jake to do his project, this has got to be kind of much ado about nothing, I think. Just be blunt. We've hashed this out for 3 or 4 months after it's been brought up. We go back and forth, back and forth. If there's a mechanism for Jake to move forward with that, and it's still gonna come into town. We're gonna keep kicking this zoning code thing down until the summer, until the fall, at this rate. And it's kind of one of those things. I think this only came up as a result of trying to make something work for Jake. And if the attorney's of the opinion that, hey, there's a mechanism there, it may not be as streamlined, but there's already a mechanism and provisions in place for the zoning code, so let's just move on. I don't see a plan unit development coming up anytime in the next, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years. How many have been brought up in the last 30 years here in town? So
My personal feeling is that we've had residential districts, we've had business districts. We have variances that can work through the zoning board or street vacation or selling of streets to the board of trustees. Moving streets. I think we have mechanisms that we could do what we need to do without having to plan it out. I don't like the idea of going back and forth. That we put it in and we take it out, I put it back in. I think we move with A and B like we've got residential district, business district. And go on down the road. If it further on down the road, we need to add it. We can do amendments to the ordinance, but that's just my opinion.
Thank you. Sounds like a plan to move forward.
But it's not a plan development. Play on words. Okay, right, is the board amenable to that? Leave it the way it's. Okay. Any other changes we want to make to it before we take it to the public hearing at a later date? You have something you want
I
to?
did, yeah, this is Tom, and this has been bothering me for a while. And the reason it's bothered me is because I have had a job as a building inspector and I would not want this job. So I'm gonna read you here what this job says. And this is under section 7C, I believe. Under unlisted uses, and here it throws the weight and the responsibility of deciding what is not explicitly listed herein upon the town clerk, and the town clerk determines that it is included in the definition of one of the listed uses or is so similar to a listed use that it should be treated as the same one. Now that's not so bad, but then it goes on. The town clerk shall make the determination based on comparison of the size, scale, operating characteristics, multimodal traffic impact, storm drainage impacts, utility impacts, neighborhood impacts of the proposed use with other uses listed herein. And then we find that the town clerk's interpretation shall be made available to the public and shall be binding on future decisions. Now, in my opinion, personally, I would not want this job in any way, shape, or form. I don't think this is the town clerk's job. And I think this circumvents just a little bit of some of the other aspects of the zoning code where you bring something forward, say, to the zoning board and they vote you down, and then you can appeal again and take it to the trustees. And if they vote it down, then you're done. But this process right here, where it throws it all on the town clerk, puts the decision on a single individual without any particular recourse to that decision. And I think this should be put through at least two committees. One would be the zoning board and one would be the trustees. Now, whether that's collective in a group all at one time, there is wisdom in council, in the number of councils.
Okay, I believe that Hillary has addressed that in the past as to why it is stated as the town clerk. I could try to restate that, or Hillary, would you like to take the mic? Why it's the town clerk on that?
Sure. I mean, it's the only staff the town consistently has at this point. And it's not meant to be a burden on any individual clerk, but it's meant to say that it's an administrative decision. The clerk would have access to the town attorney and other professionals as needed, but it's really meant to preserve a separation of powers, whereas if the use decision goes before these bodies that you're talking about, those bodies are going to be prejudging the application that's essentially going to be coming before them again. So we really need to have a way to have a use that's identified and approved administratively so that the rest of the zoning application can proceed. Otherwise, you're judge and jury all at the same time, and there's really no fair process for applicants.
I'm gonna have to summarize that.
So Tom asked me to summarize it in layman's terms. So the town clerk is our only paid employee for the town. And is separated from the zoning board of adjustment or the board of trustees, where the separation needs to come. Now, the town clerk, no way can make these decisions on their own. So they would have to seek legal advice or town attorney on any of those to determine where does it fall in the code. And if we rely upon the zoning board or the board of trustees, then the zoning board and board of trustees set the code, and then we're also the ones interpreting it and enforcing it. And this takes it to an outside town employee.
So this takes us to a town employee and can take it to an outside source.
To the attorney.
We should say that.
Okay,
So can that still be appealed? The town clerk decision can be appealed, and then that'd have to go to the zoning board and the trustees? Is that, is, this looks like a one-man decision.
I'm gonna let Hillary answer that.
No, there's no appeal process because the thinking is that ultimately the cure is then for the governing body to amend the code to expressly allow a use that the town clerk has administratively determined is not allowed. So ultimately, the Board of Trustees makes the rules. If there's a decision by the clerk that the Board of Trustees doesn't agree with, the Board of Trustees can amend the zoning code to say, yes, this is an allowed use.
Thank you.
So Hillary, could we add in that section? Would it be appropriate if the town clerk shall make that determination with the assistance for the option of legal advice of our town attorney? Could that
I mean,
be
arguably
stated?
that's kind of, I think that's stating the obvious. I mean, town staff always has access to legal advice.
I would agree with that most of the time, but just in the past, in town here, sometimes the way it's written is taken literally and then may not be. You know, I mean, I'm afraid it'll come up in the future. Maybe it's 10 years, 20 years down the road. And someone will say, no, the town clerk's supposed to say it. And the town clerk says, yes, I can say it. And doesn't seek legal advice. And that does kind of concern me.
Yeah, that's a fine addition if that's something that the board wants to see.
I think it would be a good idea. All right. Tom said that's all he's got. Jared, Corey? Okay. All right, so if you could add that, Hillary, I guess some of the list of uses. And then. I think at this point, we'll be ready to take it to a public hearing. How about we set that public hearing prior to adoption of April 20th meeting is our regular monthly meeting. Does that work for everyone? How about a motion? I'll move that we hold a public hearing for adoption of the zoning code that was revised for April 20th, 2026.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, let's say aye. Aye. All right, we'll need to get that posted
Okay,
like ASAP,
okay.
and I've got a write-up form from them.
Oh, perfect. That's wonderful.
Okay. So we'll have a public hearing on April 20th. Have a clean version and work. Definitely. All right. Item H, which is actually ordinance number 2, series 2026. This is the second reading. Oh, wow, that's weird. I do have 2 H's on those. We're gonna do the H, the first H. And it is out ordinance number 2, series of 2026 of the Board of Trustees of the town of Pitkin, Colorado, adopted by reference to the 2025 Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code and the 2018 International Residential Code, and providing penalties for violations thereof. That was our second reading of the title. And then at 8:55. I will open public hearing. Twenty 2025 Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code and 2018 International Residential Code, providing the penalties for violation. Any public comments?
None online.
Nothing online. I have one gentleman at the podium. Go right
Thank
ahead.
you for that description. This is Jesse James Harrison in behalf of Roger and Lucinda Law. Zoom is not always adequate for their communication with the board. And so they have sent me a letter that they would like for me to read during this time of the fire resilience in the building and all these things. Well, thank you. To the town of Pitkin and residents of the town, we speak in opposition to the town passing ordinances regarding the state regulation. We are saddened that our state government is requiring a one-size-fits-all regulation when small towns like Pitkin and others are unable to comply. Number one, what are the benefits of the proposed ordinances for the people of Pitkin? How will this impact property owners with existing structures in the town? Number two, the Energy Conservation Code requires concerning electric vehicles and alternative energy are now basically antiquated. The wildfire resiliency is simply a doable, is not, excuse me, the wildfire resiliency is simply not a doable in the town of Pitkin, where 75% of the population is out of state ownership. The enforcement is too big of a job for the building inspector or anyone involved in this. We are not a large enough town with adequate funding to enforce these codes and achieve any benefit from them. And they go on to say, question, has anyone tried to speak to the state in these regards? What was the penalty to the town for failing enforcement of these ordinances if adopted? What will end up happening, in our opinion, with these ordinances is that they'll never be able to be enforced. The state needs to help us figure out a way to live within their ordinances within reason. Thank you for your time. Respectfully, Roger Law, zoning board member and citizen. Lucinda Law, mayor of town of Pitkin, 1992 to 2000, and a citizen today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jesse, for reading that letter. I will address some of their questions. I want to hear public comments or public comments first for the public hearing. Are there any other of the public that would like to speak? See Ramon coming up.
Maybe I can't. My fingers don't want to work. Okay.
Yes.
Let me start by saying I understand the position that you're in. State says you got to adopt this. I started reading through this, and I didn't have to get very far to see that it's going to be really, really, really difficult, not to adopt it, but to enact it and enforce it. the things in here. Starting, I just kind of skipped through some of the things that stood out to me in the table of contents. But the whole thing is, written for big cities. And, one of the things that you're supposed to do with this is hire a whole staff to deal with it. It talks about, I don't recall all of the names, but it talks about the duties of various and powers of various people, such as a code official, code referring to this. And it's absurd in the light of what Pitkin is. They want you to hire a code official, and it says right here in the law, which is essentially what this is, that you have to give that code official authority to hire a staff to do various things. Does that fit Pitkin very well? I don't think so. And then if you go through this and start thinking about enforcement. Now I understand a lot of this is geared towards building and what you need to do. That's the simple part of it. And the building inspector can take care of that and work within both this and the building code. But what about outside? I have probably more trees on my property than most houses. Can anyone here tell me what I have to do with those trees? I have to cut them all down, cut some of them down. I haven't read the whole thing and none of that's clear to me, but if I do have to cut some of them down, how are you going to enforce that? Are you going to just send me a letter, say, Ramon, cut these trees? Or else what? I mean, I feel sorry for your position at this point, because I think you do have to adopt this. But I think in doing that, you need to give some really serious consideration of, am I adopting this and just going to put it on the shelf and ignore it? Or am I going to try to figure out an actual way to enforce this? I mean, fire protection, I think, is something very important and very real. But it's got to be realistic as well. And, I actually even sat down and listened into the county commissioners meeting last week, because they have adoption of this. And the agenda said adoption of this code with amendments. I thought, oh, well, let's see what changes the county is going to make to this. They had 2 amendments, both of which are actually more strict than this code. One of them was they took what I think is called Zone 1 or Zone A, 5 feet surrounding your building. And right now, this code allows some plant growing in that zone, but it's very limited. The county simply said you can't do anything, you can't grow anything in that code. That was their amendment. And the second one kind of escaped me right now. Oh, the second one, this code actually has a section in it that can essentially take a 35 acre or a larger parcel and say that you don't have to follow this code. And the county changed, they amended that, said, yes, you do have to follow this code with 35-acre parcels or like. So that was no help for me because, you know, so much of this just doesn't apply to us. And so, you know, I can't give you advice on it because I really don't understand a lot of this. I think that fire protection is real and necessary. When I was on the county planning commission, we dealt with the state frequently on fire protection and what they call wildfire resiliency. But you have to understand, and this code, I think, is a little lacking in one area. And that's that it's a two-way street. And the state and you should be concerned not just about what happens if the hillside over here catches on fire, lightning strike or whatever. Are the houses going to be more protected under this code? It goes the other way too. Especially if a house against the hillside over here catches fire, is it going to set the hillside on fire? There's a whole lot of things to look at, and it's extremely complicated, and I don't see any help in this. So I guess really all I'm offering to you for sitting there is my sympathy. Because you know, the law is the law, and if they say you've got to adopt this, what choice do you have? But I think you need to consider the after adoption. What happens then? Can you, will you, should you enforce everything that's in this document? You really need to give some thought to that, and I think probably talk to some other people, including both Pitkin and the county fire departments, and maybe the state. The state, that's who we frequently dealt with on the county planning commission, and they tend to be, you know, pretty knowledgeable people in dealing with wildfires and all of the things such as wildfire, what's called here wildfire resilience. Thank you.
Thank you, Mo. All right, I'm going to address some of the questions and comments that have come up. Before I address those, I'm going to say that the state statute was passed in July 1st of last year, 2025, that stated all municipalities and counties in the state will adopt at minimum the 2025 Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code by April 1st. And the first question, I mean, one of the questions I know that came up from Roger and Lucinda that I want to address is, well, do we really have to adopt? Well, the way the state statute is written, that if we don't adopt the Wildfire Resiliency Code, which by the way, takes 4 chapters out of the Wildland Urban Interface Code, only 4 chapters out of it, and put in the Wildfire Resiliency Code. The option is if we don't adopt it by April 1st of this year, then we will adopt the Wildland Urban Interface Code. The whole code, which is much more stringent than what we're trying to adopt tonight in the Wildfire Resiliency Code. The county, Gunnison County, operates under the Wildland Urban Interface Code. And they now, it sounds like they're going to roll back to the Wildfire Resiliency Code with a couple of amendments that they've added that make some things more stringent. So we really, in both of this code and the next ordinance that we're going to talk about, the energy code, we really need to adopt the lesser of two evils. Is basically what it comes down to. Everybody in Pitkin says we want to keep things simple, and I get that. So the Wildfire Resiliency Code is by far the least impactful to our town of Pitkin, I believe, as far as costs and what we have to do. Now, we've been talking about the wildfire resiliency code started with the zoning board back in September. And I believe in August, I attended a training program that was put together by the Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control, who is behind the Wildfire Resiliency Code. The presentation I went through with the zoning board of adjustments back in September, I believe. Then when we start talking about the Board of Trustees, I went through the whole presentation with the Board of Trustees on a work session. And then we talked about it in a Board of Trustees meeting. But I'm just going to highlight, I'm not going through the 27 slide deck again tonight. But I'm going to give you some things that maybe will lay to rest a little bit from some of the questions. So the first question that was asked, what are the benefits of proposed ordinances for the people of Pitkin? Well, if you read the state statute for the Wildfire Resiliency Code, they flat out say the reason that they're doing this is for the safety of the citizens. That's the benefit. How's it going to impact property owners with existing structures in town? So if you look at the code, and I know I'm running in time of the public comments, but I'm going to try to make this short. If you look at the Wildfire Resiliency Code, it is for new construction. It is for additions to an existing structure larger than 500 square feet additions. And it is if an exterior replacement is done on a house that's greater than 25%, then that exterior has to come up under the Wildfire Resiliency Code. There is not anything in the current Wildfire Resiliency Code that says you have to go to existing structures and implement all the wildfire resiliency items to existing structures, unless you're doing an addition over 500 square feet. So that brings up the question, okay, how can we enforce this as a town? Well, we can enforce it on new construction and addition and even exterior replacement through our code official is our building inspector. Now, will that building inspector be going around the existing houses and say, oh, you got trees too close to your house? No, that's not what the Wildfire Resiliency Code states. It is for new construction and additions and then exterior siding replacement. So it does, in those three items, it does come to siding, wildfire resiliency siding, roofing material, which we use metal roofing material in Pitkin already, and then the gravel 5 feet out from the house, and then trees trimmed up as you go further out. But that again, that's for new construction and additions. So that, I guess I'm going to leave the wildfire resilience alone there, or the questions that were brought up about the energy code. I'll address that in the next ordinance. But I think as the town and the Board of Trustees, when we looked at this, looking at the three items, it's new construction, 500 square feet addition or exterior, we looked at that to say, okay, how can we enforce this? And it is in new construction. And unfortunately, our code official is going to fall on our building inspector to look at that. It's not as drastic in some aspects as you might think. I am confident with our new building inspector who's been dealing with construction in the county. He's had to deal with the wildland urban interface. I think this is going to be actually a little bit easier with the rules that we have to possibly adopt. The thing I don't like about the state statute is that if we don't adopt it, then the Genesee County will take over and they will implement the ruling code in the county. No doubt about that. I have an email from the county stating that they'd be more than happy to do it. I don't think we want to do it. So with that, any more public comments? All right, Jesse, what's your
question? The exempt part is the Gunnison National Forest. And Mr. Reed brought this up, our mountain here on the other side of the creek from where we are tonight is exempt. Could we amend our adoption to strike the exemption of the forest that surrounds our town? That a dumbass question. and it's a far-fetched question, but I have a lot more concern about fire in Pitkin from the forest than I do in Pitkin going to the forest. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I will answer that because that was a question that was brought up in actually the training we did. And then we had from the state. The United States Forest Service and National Forest Service and tribal lands are exempt from the Wildfire Resiliency Code. The state cannot overwrite tribal land laws or national federal laws, the Forest Service. So we can put all the exemption we want in ours to say they have to do it. It's not legal. Otherwise, it would have been in the Wildfire Resiliency. It's unfortunate to me that we have a wildfire resiliency code that we have to implement, but right across the street, they don't have to do anything about it. The only thing I can say on this item and the next item is contact your House of Representative, your senator, and your governor for your displeasure that we're having to implement this stuff. And so, all right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
you did not address one of the questions here.
Okay.
Has anyone tried to speak to the state in these regards? And the answer is, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for all the time you have been involved for months on this. Yes, we have, by way of the mayor, I made only one phone call and got like no, I got two on that Corey, but I do know that yes, our mayor has consistently spent a lot of time on this with the state, looking for other avenues. What can we do? And Mr. Reed was very correct in saying we're between a rock and a hard spot. We have to pass the thing. I don't know if it would have been doing any good to put in a motion. We're doing this under duress, but yeah, this is. I'm not happy with the thing, but this is where we are. But thank you, Mr. Mayor, for all the time you have talked to state authorities in various avenues.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes.
Been a lot of conversation. Been very, so with that, I'm gonna close the public hearing at 9:17. And there are some other questions I know that were raised, and I will try to address those in the energy code as well, as to what's gonna happen. But as far as enforcement of wildfire resiliency code, particularly when it comes to new construction and additions, I feel confident that we can enforce this code on those items. So happy about it. It is what it is. All right, so with that, we've had the second reading and we've had the public hearing. I would entertain a motion.
I'm just gonna go on record as saying, just because we vote in favor, this does not mean we agree with it. I don't know that I speak for the entire board, but all the issues that's been presented tonight, I don't agree with this, but unfortunately, we are in a rock and a hard place, and the only option for us is more stringent. It's more of a negative impact on the town. And property owners serious, I think it's still a way forward. And just to reiterate, if you're unhappy with it, contact your state representatives who thought this thing was a great idea.
I will say on record, I couldn't agree more. If I had my druthers, we wouldn't be doing this, but I don't want to go the more stringent way of having the county take over for the Louis code.
This is Jerry, and I would concur with what's been said.
No. So wait,
Okay, so this is Tom. And as was stated earlier, we are backed into a corner. And we have no options other than to adopt this ordinance number
2.
To 2026.
It is actually. It is.
The Michigan, the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code. And in conjunction with that, we also have the 2018 International Residential Code. And I quit there.
So we have a motion by Tom to adopt ordinance number 2, series 2026. In reference to the 2025 Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code and the 2018 International Residential Code. Do I have a second?
This is Jerry, and I'll second
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
it. Aye.
Aye. All right.
You left out the word grace.
I didn't.
I've got one.
Oh, you.
All right, so then item H the second. Ordinance number 3. That will be a second reading, then a public hearing as well. Ordinance number 3, series of 2026 of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Pitkin, Colorado, adopting by reference the 2023 Colorado Electric Ready and Solar Ready Code and the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code, and providing penalties for violations thereof. So at 9:22, I will open the public hearing for ordinance number 3 for the Energy Conservation Code and the Colorado Electric Ready. No one online?
No one online.
Give it a minute or two. And then I'll address some of the questions that have come up previously. Go ahead, Jesse, if you're ready. You got something?
My comments on this is the codes of the ordinances that are mentioned here on our agenda are less of a problem than if we don't adopt it, then we wind up with later ones that are even more stringent. So let's go with less. I am from the.
All right, thank you, Jesse. So if there's no other further questions or comments, I will address a couple of the questions that came up earlier, in addition to the wildfire resiliency code, but the energy code. So the state statute for the adopting of the 2021 energy code and the 2023 Colorado Ready, EV Ready and Solar Ready code states that if a municipality does not adopt those codes by July 1st, effective July 1st, 2026, then we will adopt by law the 2024 energy code. I would advise everybody to go look at the 2024 energy code and see what's in it, but it is way more stringent than what's in the 2021 energy code and the 2023 Colorado EV ready and solar ready. So it's words like full electric, no propane, no natural gas, no firewood. So we can work that shot. But anyway, so that's one of the issues. The issue if we don't adopt it and put it into place by July 1st, which our ordinance is to put it in by June 1st, so we don't get caught in that pickle. So if we adopt this tonight, the energy codes tonight, will go into effect June 1st of 2026. So we will meet that state statute requirement. Look at my notes. So it is by far easier to adopt these two codes than to be forced into a 2024 energy code. I probably wouldn't disagree that what's going on with EV vehicles right now is, I won't say it's antiquated, but I'll say there's been a drastic pullback. But I don't know if that's gonna come forward again in the future. And so that is what it is. Again, those codes, that statute's been out there for quite some time. They started discussing this with the zoning board last year. Looked at any other options, which we were very limited. And then brought it to the board of trustees, and then it's been discussed multiple times, board of trustees, board sections. So again, I guess just an opinion, I think we're taking the lesser of two evils. We could be very more stringent, or we could be less stringent, but 21 and 23 energy code can still. Just as an awareness, Denison County is currently under the 2021 energy code and is contemplating in their planning right now of moving to the 2024 energy code. I have no doubt that if we put this one off, and we let the county take over a lot of our building inspection and OWTS and so forth, we would be under the more stringent codes, which I don't think is what the citizens kind of do. Any further public comments? I'm going to close the public comments then at 9:26. The public hearing. Do we have any further discussion from the board? No further comments from the board. So again, I will entertain a motion then to adopt ordinance number 3, series 2026.
This is Jara, and I so move.
We've got a motion from Jared to adopt ordinance number 3, series 26. Adopting by reference the 2023 Colorado Electric Ready and Solar Ready Code and the 21 International Energy Conservation Code, and providing penalties for violations thereof. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Well, that will be ready for publication as well after we sign those tonight. And we will have met those two requirements that we've been working on for almost. Right. Okay, that brings us to item I. Resolution number series of 2026, the Board of Trustees of Town of Pitkin, setting compensation for the members of the Zoning Board of Adjustments. We cannot do that resolution until we have adopted the zoning 2026. The 2022 zoning code says that they are volunteer. So we can table that item until the zoning code is adopted. I'll make a motion just to make it legal and then that we table that item until further meeting.
I'll second it.
So we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Okay. We're getting there. Did we have any other reports come in, Stacy? I didn't see you.
Actually, I do think I got an email from Josh.
Oh, okay.
I did.
I'm gonna presume what it says.
Let me pull that up.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, you
Okay.
pull that up.
Okay.
I've got a couple of things for the mayor's report.
Okay.
Just a town hall update from an FYI. The contracts for the engineer to do the as-built and the overseeing of the construction and the contract with the contractor, which is Court Street Company, has been signed. Those deliverables, what's called 4 and 5, have been sent to the state. Pre-construction meeting is planned for approximately May 15th. and is waiting for our state historical person to come back with me with specific dates. We'll have that meeting with the contractor, the engineer, and the archaeologist. I do have the archaeologist, is Justin Lawrence, has agreed to do the archaeology for us. I do know in that grant, it was spelled out with $1,000. Last time when I talked to him, he said, wow, to do something like that could easily be $7,000 or $8,000. I met with him again last week, I think. I took him to lunch and he agreed on $2,500. So I didn't say pay for it, but it don't matter. So he was gonna ask the state, Jacob from the state, specifically what he was gonna have to do to make sure he thought that. So we are set to hopefully start construction June 1st. I will just add, and going back over to the town hall again, painting of the trim really needs to be done again. But that will not be part of the grant. That will have to be maintenance as part of the building, what the town of Pitkin will have to do. And I'm not sure how we're gonna go about that. I'm just throwing it out there. We need to be looking at that. Second item I have for the election, or excuse me, for the mayor report, is the election was canceled for April by resolution. So we have Tori Nasso and Jared Garrettson as trustees, myself as the mayor. Will be sworn in April. That will leave 2 open trustee seats. So if there's anybody out there on Zoom that would like to put their name in the hat after our April meeting where the trustees and myself will be sworn in, we will have to complete a resolution to open that up, appoint a couple of people. So looking for some people that have been residents in the town of Pitkin for the last 12 months and are registered to vote in Gunnison County. And then the third item I have is in our April meeting, our town attorney is planning on making a quarterly visit in person. So we'll be welcoming Hillary to our meeting in person in April, which will be nice. All right, did you find Josh's?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Let's see. All right, Josh says, Dear Board of Trustees, this report is to provide an update regarding the town of Pitkin's on-site wastewater treatment system program activities for the 2026 inspection cycle. As part of the town's ongoing OWTS management and compliance efforts, all required 2026 OWTS inspection notifications have been mailed to the property owners whose systems are due for inspections this year. These notifications inform owners of their responsibility to have their systems inspected within the required timeframe in accordance with local and state regulations. In addition, the Environmental Health Department has reviewed and approved an OWTS system located at 621 State Street. Following the approval, a formal letter was issued and sent to the property owners confirming that the system meets applicable requirements. The Environmental Health Department will continue to monitor inspection compliance and provide updates to the commission as needed throughout the year. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions or require additional information. Sincerely, Joshua Ackerman.
All right, thank you. So the letters have been sent. I believe it's 52 letters, I believe.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was 52.
Okay. All right,
And the street report is I attended the 811 meeting in Gunnison with the town of Pitkin. Firstly, we had 0 problems except for telephone lines. But my recommendation, don't dig without calling 811. Period.
recommendation. Thank you, Justin.
Well, even if it's marked wrong, CYA is covered.
Yeah.
All right. That takes us down to item number 6 on our agenda, and that is to adjourn. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And a second. Get that all
This
set.
is Tom, I will second that motion. Did I miss it? You beat me?
So we got a motion and a second to adjourn at 9:35. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, everyone. Glad we moved through this. Thank you, Hillary.
Great job, team.
She jumped off.
She did.
It's a time for-